This morning, I unboxed the First Law Trilogy that was available on Kickstarter through Lit Escalates, and it was a controversial one, to say the least, and at least, controversial in the book world. So let's see what is in the box. You get this free tote, which I think is pretty cool. Do I see me using it much? No. It's also pretty thin quality, but I like it. And again, it was free. We also get the trifold art by Joel Daniel Phillips. This is the dust jacket art for the blade itself, which is pretty cool. Not my favorite of the 4 that come with it, but I'll kind of go into that in a second. Now, this one is for Before They Are Hanged, which I do really like. But this one might be my favorite here. This is the dust jacket art for Last Argument of Kings. And then finally, we also get the Endpaper art for Before They Are Hanged. I also want to take a second to look at this promotional material that came with it, and it's for a partnership between Lit Escalates and Curious King. They recently collaborated on Pierce Brown's Red Rising series for the artist edition. Now, Curious King also has a version of the First Law Trilogy that comes in a numbered or lettered state, and they are absolutely beautiful, but really hard to obtain. I'm really excited about this, and you should be too, because everything that Anthony K produces with Curious King is absolutely stunning. Next up is this little sticker decal thing that says, "You can never have too many knives." And the last thing you get is this business card so that you can contact them if you have any issues with your order. And this is going to come into play in a little bit. Now to the books themselves. Mine came in this slipcase, which was an add-on. I believe it was for $10. And for $10, it's pretty sturdy quality. I do like it. I like the color. And I also really like that the fans were the ones that voted on which quotes were included on both the left and right sides of the slipcase. These were actually my selections, so I was pretty happy to see them win. Now, there are some downsides to this slipcase, and you have to be realistic about these things. The books are very tightly pressed inside of the slipcase, and they're a little bit of a challenge to get out, but it's an even bigger challenge to get them back in, which I think is partially why there's some damage here on the slipcase. It looks like the exact location where Before They Are Hanged slides into the slipcase, so that's something of note if you did order the slipcase. But I wish there was a little more room so that I could add Mylar to each book. But for $10, this is one hell of a slipcase. I'm not going to complain too much about it. Let's start at the beginning. Let's start with the blade itself. On the cover, we have Logan, and this scene is in the prologue, so it's not much of a spoiler. The other 2 books, they are spoiler-ish. I don't think you would even understand the context of them unless you've read the book, but, something to keep in mind. This is not exactly how I pictured Logan in my head, but I think it's pretty well done, and I love the scenery behind him. Reminds me of back home, Washington State. So that's pretty cool. On the spine, we have this sword. Now, you'll notice that there is blood on the very end of it. And when you place them together, you can see that the blood runs higher, or I guess deeper, for each of them to kind of indicate which book you're on, which I think is a really cool detail that just further sets itself apart. As far as the quality of the dust jacket, I think it's nice. It has this gritty feel, kind of like a sandpaper, if you will. and it's nice in the hand, makes it easy to hold. However, there is a downside. You can't notice it on the blade itself, but on before they are hanged in the dark parts, it's actually scratching off, and I'll kind of show you here in a second, but at least for the blade itself, it looks great. The colors were reproduced really nicely, and I like this dust jacket. And for a size comparison, I have my main reading copy here, which is the Pyre version of the paperback, the blade itself. And you can tell that they're roughly the same size. Oddly though, the weight of the paperback, it feels heavier than the weight of the hardcover. So I don't know what could have caused that, but it's just a call out nonetheless. Each book gets this gold inlay, which looks really nice. I do have a history of seeing these rub off over time, which I suspect will be the case for this edition, but in the meantime, it looks great. The spine mirrors the dust jacket, where you have the blade plus a little bit of blood to show you it's the first book in the trilogy. Now let's take a look at the front and back end papers. Again, this is art by Joel Daniel Phillips. I really like the vibrant color palette that he worked with, because I feel like the series, you're reading it, I don't know, at least in my head, it was very muted, but this is a really nice artist rendition. Each book also has this fold-out map. I do wish that it was in color, but we get a black and gray version of it. So I mentioned earlier that there was a mild controversy about the release of this, and it really just kind of stems from three things. Here is the bookmark that comes with this, but the first of which is that this is just a bookplate. Everyone really wanted Joe Abercrombie's signature directly on the page. You didn't get it, but at least the bookplate is nice. Yes, it is a sticker, but it feels pretty high quality. You can kind of see here on video that the glue that they used to house the bookplate is coming through the actual paper. So that's a little bit unfortunate. I'm interested to see how that holds up over time. Now, getting to the second issue people have with this is that the paper quality is pretty low. This is just your standard hardcover paper. It is not acid-free paper, which you would kind of expect for a higher end book. Is this fine press? No. I'm not necessarily expecting that quality, but acid-free paper would have been nice. The third is that this is a glued binding and not sewn. So Smyth sewn would have definitely been preferable, and glue has a tendency to kind of wear down over time, especially if this is going to be your main reading copy. And I looked at my invoice. Mine came out to be just over $200 with the optional slipcase, shipping and handling, and taxes. So for $200, I don't know. You kind of expect a little bit higher end, but they did tell you from the start. It was right there in the comments. People knew about this, so I guess you can't complain too much. Now, on to Before They Are Hanged. Like I mentioned, I really do like the art, but because of the material that they used for this dust jacket, it kind of picks up, one, fingerprints, but two, scratches, and the color is starting to come off where it is scratched. I'm trying to show you here on video, which is a little bit of a challenge, but you can kind of see it here in the corner. It's not rubbing off because it's just completely scratched, and underneath of that is just white. So that's disappointing, and so is the fact that the dust jacket is damaged down here at the bottom. This isn't as bad as some people have reported. I've seen photos of it on Facebook and Reddit crop up, but It's damaged nonetheless. Again, for $200, I was kind of hoping it would be damage free. And like I mentioned, I think it's purely because the slipcase is way too tight. Getting these books in there is a real challenge, and they should have kind of taken note of that when they were prototyping this. The boards, they follow the same gold inlay, which again feels nice. Hopefully it doesn't rub off too quickly. And the spine also looks great. Let's move over to Last Argument of Kings. Yeah, I think this is my favorite of the dust jacket. The art is really cool. I like the attention to detail that's in the background. So we've kind of run into some quality control issues with the slipcase and then also the dust jacket for before they were hanged. And as soon as you open up Last Argument of Kings, you'll notice that my Endpapers, they're literally rubbing off. They're kind of disintegrating as I take a look at it. And the back is even worse, where the Endpaper is just completely ripping off. So like I mentioned, it does come with a business card where you can kind of contact them, and I'm assuming they're going to replace your book. I don't know when that's going to be because they're still in a process of shipping out all of them, but it's an issue and hopefully they are able to resolve it. I was looking on the Kickstarter campaign's comments, and several people have mentioned not necessarily these issues, but issues nonetheless. And they said that they have improved the packaging material that comes in the box. So I think that's going to be really good for people that are a little bit later in the shipment process. But for the rest of us, yeah, you're kind of screwed. Overall, I think this is nice. Really like the dust jackets. Wish the quality was higher. I do wish that there was art throughout the book, but I understand that there was some limitations involved. Would I back it again, given what I know about it now? Yeah. I think they're nice, and I'm not getting my hands on the Curious King deluxe versions anytime soon. So these are going to look great on a shelf, and I really look forward to rereading the trilogy.